Yeah.
Aren't people not allowed to go down there, or I thought it was taboo?
Well, people raft down the river and then walk up from the juncture of the two rivers. You know, it's just a couple miles, and people do that. And what's called the Salt Trail used to come from the northern rim and down to the Sipapuni. And the Hopi used to make annual migrations to the Sipapuni. There are salt caves down there too, in the Grand Canyon. And they made an annual migration. And I believe Jesse Walter Fuchs has written an essay about this, about the salt trail and the ceremony that they did on the Salt Trail. It's pretty fascinating. Again, Sipapuni from the air. It's like the circumpunct that Dan Brown talks about in The Lost Symbol, his novel, The Lost Symbol. Yeah. It might be some sort of portal or otherworldly dimension, because the Hopi say they came up from this structure, from the third world into the fourth world. What about Pi 5 Orionis? Well, astronomers think that's an unusual star. It's a binary star. It's an eclipsing binary star. Here's the normal light curve for binary stars. Okay, it looks like this. But this particular, for Pi 5, it's a perfect sine wave. Is that some sort of, does it indicate a higher intelligence of some sort? You know, that's the normal binary star. When one star eclipses the other, you know, in this way, that's what it looks like. But this is pretty regular. Well, very regular, you know. So there's something funny about Pi 5 Orionis too. Okay, and you know, the Orion sets into the Grand Canyon, into the underworld, goes into the underworld. So Masao is a nocturnal god. He can travel the entire earth before morning arrives. This is similar to Orion's path from eastern to western horizons. Masao is analogous to Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god of the underworld. So they might be similar sorts of gods. From the pyramid text, the oldest written language in the world, we have this beautiful poem. The pharaoh becomes a star. Oh, he has come as Orion. Oh, Osiris has come as Orion, conceived of sky, born of dusk. Sky conceived you, and Orion. Dusk gave birth to you, and Orion. Who lives by the god's command. You shall live, you shall rise with Orion in the eastern sky. You shall set with Orion in the western sky. Your third is Thosis, wife Isis, pure of thrones. She is your guide on sky's good paths in the field of rushes. That's the Duat, or Tuat, from very, very old, 2400 BC.
What's Duat?
The Duat is the Egyptian underworld. It's the field of rushes, the Elysian fields, the Greek called them. So it's the same as the Hopi underworld, basically in the Grand Canyon. So here we have the whole Orion desert correlation with Taurus, and there's even a Death Valley correlation to Aries. And I talk about that in my first book, The Orion Zone. And you can get all my books at Amazon.com. I have some for sale here if you want to take a look. And there's the total pattern on the Arizona desert and New Mexico as well. There's Chaco Canyon, and I took a sky chart and superimposed it on the Google Earth. So you can see the Mogollon Rim very clearly here. Black Mesa. You know, it's all there. You know, I started doing this in 1997, and I'm still doing the same thing. So 20 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. So you can look at these books. Go to my website, theorionzone.com. There's free essays you can download.
And a lot of images.
A lot of images, yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a map page. You go to theorionzone.com, and at the top there's a link to maps, and there are a bunch of maps that you can see that I've provided here, but you can see it online as well.
So Gary?
Yeah.
What, in your understanding, is the Hopi tradition of belief about Orion specifically?
Well, they say it synchronizes their winter solstice ceremony.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps Nassau has something to do with Orion.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, you know, because of the way it appears in the overhead hatchway of the kiva.
Right.
During the most important ceremony is the Soyal ceremony
Right.
in December 21st.
Yeah, it's very prominent in the winter sky.
And very prominent in the winter sky, and it begins the whole Kachina season. The Kachina season starts on the winter solstice and carries on through the agricultural season, the growing season, and the Kachinas hang around the three mesas for all that time. And then when the corn starts to take root and it's ready, you know, it gets going fairly well, in July the Kachinas go back to the San Francisco Peaks. And then they hang around there for half the year. So it's a basic pathway, an annular pathway.
Is there a belief that they came from Orion?
I don't think a Hopi would say, well, we came from Orion. They would say, we had star ancestors that taught us.
From Orion.
From Orion, because they recognize Sirius, and they recognize Taurus and Orion, the three major constellations in a row. They recognize, not too many others. Like there's the Pleiades, yeah, which is part of Taurus. You know, it's kind of sticking up from Taurus. The Pleiades.
That's the rattle of the rattlesnake, the Pleiades.
Yeah, for the Maya, it's the rattlesnake constellation. Sure.
Maya and Hopi are cousins.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you know, the Hopi moved into Mexico, and the Hopi say that some of them stayed down there and became part of the Maya. So they're you know, brothers to the Maya and sisters to the Maya, and they just stayed down there and, you know, and never returned to the center place.
I have a different story. I was talking with Whitebeard Fredericks many years ago from South America. They built Machu Picchu. He says, look at the ruins, you see a T-shaped window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they went up to Mexico. Some stayed there and stayed. Other clans came north. They built the ruins in Mexico. He says the T-shaped windows are there too.
Right.
And then he said the others came up here, and the Colorado Rockies, they put the ruins up there and they had the T-shaped window.
Yeah, there you
So
can
the people
find
who
it
came
here.
this way,
Yeah.
And then they went to the Tibetan. So when the Tibetans came over, those were the same people as these ancient people, Peruvian, Mexican, and Hopi, they're all the same people.
I think the Hopi got around the globe. You know, they sailed across the Pacific. They perhaps visited the Middle East in various ways, or the Phoenicians came over here and interacted with the Hopi. It's hard to say, but there was.
They had flying shields back in those ancient days.
Yeah. The Hopi definitely have a tradition of flying shields, and Kachinas piloting these flying shields, and you know there are stories of Kachinas coming down, picking a Hopi bride and mating with a Hopi woman. You know, these Kachina gods coming down, and it's very similar to the Nephilim and so forth. The sons of God mating with the daughters of men. You find in the Bible. It's a very similar motif.
I actually found footprints in the rock here, I think date about 13,000 years ago, when the big shift took place.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think around that time you had this big cataclysm, like a comet hit the ice cap that was over Canada, and you know a huge cataclysm just destroyed a lot of North America. And you know Graham Hancock talks about that in his book Magicians of the Gods. You know this tremendous geological upheaval that this comet that striking North America caused. You know,
Mainstream scientists don't agree with that because they can't find the impact crater, and I say it's the Great Lakes.
yeah, well, it could be because, but the ice was like 2 miles thick. If it hit ice, you know, if a comet hit ice, it melted the ice, but left no crater there. You know,
It's the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes.
it could be, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I took a woman to a place, and she was an older woman, many, many years ago. She had a vision where I found the footprints, and she said she saw Native people dressed in white, women with head dresses, and children. And later, many years, I found footprints, but children and the woman's footprint.
Oh yeah, I believe that there was a lot that archaeologists aren't explaining. You know, in the traditional way of looking at things. You know, because they're myopic. They have a narrow vision of history.
Well, they know Mexico, the people came up from there and brought the corn about 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We've got evidence around some of the
Yeah,
ruins here.
exactly. Uh-huh.
So the people were already here when Lemuria sank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people were already here. This was an outpost of Lemuria.
Yeah, I believe that. And, you know, a lot of the islands were kind of like stepping stones that, you know, they sailed to one island and then another.
It's the only
And-
source because of the great floods and the people who survived the floods and the land raised up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Because we were underwater. We can see the history of the ocean on this land.
Yeah, James Churchward talks about that in his books about about Lemuria. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that the continent rose up.
Gary?
Yeah.
When White Bear Fredericks was alive, I spent quite a bit of time with him, and he used to talk about the Hopi ancestors coming across the Pacific, coming into South America and then heading north, and he talked about the Tau windows, and every
Yeah,
time
yeah.
they settled in a place and then they moved again, they left those symbols.
Those
so
you know,
that you could
particular
follow
window, and you
their
see that in
migration.
Chaco Canyon. You see in Casa Rinconada, you see a tau or T-shaped window in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All along.
And a lot of Maya structures have that, you know, and like you say in South America as well, at Machu Picchu.
The really interesting thing was that Grand Canyon, you said 50,000 people under there.
Yeah.
It's like over at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, they've got underground cities hold 20, 30,000 people.
Right.
And
Darren Kiyu.
They've been excavating that stuff, and you see the T of the window of the ancient Maya Hopi. You see that over there, but
Yeah.
they have the symbol. This one over here is the empty symbol, and that one over there is the physical symbol. Nobody's put that together yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of the T. Yeah, you're right because a good friend of mine who passed on a few years ago wrote a extensive essay, an academic essay about the Tau or the T-shaped going all over the world, in Egypt, in South America, in the Southwest. You know, it's all over the globe.
It's important to the Knights Templar too. They have a whole secret kind of
Oh, yeah,
teaching
yeah.
around
Well,
the Tau.
They're latecomers, you know, the Knights
Yeah,
Templar.
right, exactly.
Question,
Okay,
in your overlay of Orion,
right.
in relation to Zuni, where Clifford talked about the two mounds where the Kachinas would go to and come out for their dances.
Mhm. You know, I haven't correlated the Zuni Pueblo into this whole pattern. I don't know if it fits or not, but you know,
There was two mounds he talked about, one one was in, near the New Mexico border.
Yeah, uh-huh.
One was in St. John,
Okay, yeah.
and then the other one was.
Well, yeah,
So
that-
in your ley lines of, you know,
I don't, you know, I would have to look at that closer because there are a couple of ruin sites around St. John's in that area that are pretty interesting.
well, then show up on that,
Yeah.
map.
Well, that's my next book. I'm going to have to talk to Clifford about that. See what he says. Okay. All right.
I
Any?
have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do the Hopis agree with the dating, because you said the Hopi Masons, that they claim about 1,000 years ago, they were occupied? Built there?
They don't dispute that. I don't think they dispute that. But they've been here, you know, thousands of years. But just not. You know, they might say, well, we built the pueblos maybe 1000 A.D. or something like that.
The Hopi say that.
Yeah, and you know, it's pretty certain, you know, they took the tree ring dating out of these beams, and that can be established pretty well, you know, the timeline.
Unless they switch them out or put new ones in.
I don't think that archaeologists are really that smart or
No, no,
that
I mean-
devious.
I mean, the people living in those places, they keep it from rotting, put in new beams to reinforce the thing.
I don't know, you know, I think that they would say that they've been here for thousands of years, you know, and building these pit houses, because there are a lot of pit houses you can see. You know, there's a pit house by Montezuma Well that you can go visit, and that's pre-Pueblo kind of thing, you know. And
Sugarloaf, near Artie's,
pardon me?
good houses, on Sugarloaf Road.
Oh, I don't know about that one. Does anybody know about that one?
Yeah,
Cornville?
Or there's a pit house down there?
yeah, there's ruins all up on top.
When are we going? I'd like to go there. And I'd like to go to the salt mine in Camp Verde
Oh,
too,
yeah.
you know.
The archaeologists, when they do lectures about it, they warn people that, you know, you're not supposed to go there, it's off limits, it's sacred land, but I've actually gone there.
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody's ever around.
Well, the salt was very important, you know, for the Hopi and the Zuni. They had a salt lake, the Zuni, in western Arizona. You know, they went to the salt lake in western Arizona, north of St. John's there.
Well, the salt mines in Camp Verde were really very important to all of the tribes in the entire region, including Zuni, Hopi.
Yeah, sure.
And Salt Woman was the guardian
Right.
of the salt. It was always the women, you know, when they collect salt, they give it to the aunties to be the guardians
Oh,
of
yeah,
the salt.
sure, yeah.
Which
And-
is very interesting, because that's also an ancient tradition of women, or wise women, being with
Sure,
the salt.
yeah. Well, that's the way it is, you know. Hopi are matrilineal and matriarchal too.
Almost every indigenous society on the planet.
Yeah, that's true. It's only when the patriarchs took over. You know, in Neolithic Europe, it was the same way. You know, it was a matriarchal society, and the patriarchs took over, and we're still trying to throw that off, that tradition.
What about this cave in the Grand Canyon?
The what?
The cave.
Kincaid's?
Oh, Kincaid's Cave? Well, you know, I'm not totally convinced it's a genuine story, but I think there's a lot of merit to it. There are a lot of clues that point to it. But again, it's 1,500 feet straight down, because I stood at the spot where it's supposed to be, according to this article. And it's 1,500 feet straight down, and Kincaid climbed up from the river 2,000 feet up. So it's right in, you know, in the middle of the cliff.
It's not viewable?
Nobody has really proven. there are a lot of theories that, you know, the Smithsonian came in, cleared out all the artifacts because it broke all the paradigms of
Right.
of
But did they
20th
close
century.
the entrance?
Yeah, I mean, to have Egyptian artifacts in Grand Canyon, that's a no, that's a non-starter for archaeologists, you know.
Well, they were giants.
They would have to rewrite all the textbooks, you know. But people have theories that, you know, the Smithsonian dynamited the cave so you couldn't find it again. It cleared the artifacts out, and now they're in the Smithsonian in the basement, just like the end of a Indiana Jones movie.
You'd still be able to be located, the caverns anyway, with sonar.
Yeah, sonar only goes down so far, though. Ground penetrating radar only goes down so far, and this is like 1,500 feet down from the rim. So I don't know if sonar would go down that far.
I heard they didn't blow it up, they just put doors over it and covered it, locked it up with doors.
They might have, but then you could see the doors, you know, if you looked. But, you know, there have been brave souls that tried to climb down there. There was one expedition a few years ago that I watched on YouTube, and the guys got stuck down kind of halfway in between, and one guy almost died going down there. So it's real treacherous to go down there, you know. You'd have to kind of be a rock climber and scale down, you know, rappel down the cliff.
In Kincaid's time, when this article came out, what was the follow-through just immediately following that article?
Well, there was an initial article in March, and then saying that Kincaid was going down the river, and then they had the article in May, and then Kincaid supposedly got off at Yuma, and that's where he went to California or someplace. But they supposedly had another expedition by a Professor Jordan, and they went again, and what happened to the artifacts? You know, the Smithsonian might have claimed them all, and we don't know about them.
The same way they're hiding the bones of the giants have been.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my book, Journey of the Serpent People, talks about the Ohio Valley and has a chapter on giants. And there have been archaeologists to find, 20th century archaeologists, not just newspaper articles from the 19th century. 20th century archaeologists have found 7-foot plus people, skeletons, in some of these mounds in southern Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, you know. And these are documented. The archaeologists, respected archaeologists in the 20th century have written about this.
They claim they got a museum in Nevada and got those 7-8 foot tall.
Yeah, the Lovelock Cave giants, the red-haired giants.
Killed them
Yeah,
off, and they were in kind of a cave and they killed them off.
yeah. The Ute, the Paiute people had a war against these red-haired giants in Lovelock Cave, and apparently they were tired of the giants terrorizing the Paiute people, so they built a big bonfire in front of the cave and just kind of burned them all the giants. But they found, you know, giant skeletons in Lovelock Cave. You know, archaeologists from Berkeley, University of California, found these giants.
Yeah, with the red hair.
Yeah, red-haired giants.